Hi, and welcome to Student Union. This training video is to help you, as the treasurer of your student group, to understand all aspects of Student Union. I'll give you an overview of Student Union. I'll cover 7 different Student Union accounts, SU policies, and how you should manage your group's accounts and resources. In addition to this training video, Student Union has prepared a manual. It's called How Things Work. This extensive manual is about everything you need to know about running a student group while following all SU policies and making it as effective as possible. There are some printed copies in the SU office. It is also online under Resources on the SU website. So please make sure that you utilize this information. If you're looking for something not found there, or if you have a question, please see a business coordinator. What does Student Union do? We advocate, we allocate, and we program. We advocate on behalf of student needs, we allocate money to student groups, and then we put on programming through these student groups that we think best represent what students want. Each Student Union recognized student group is placed into one of 3 different categories. Category 1, 2, and 3. There are also other committees and councils, such as Social Programming Board, class councils, school councils, and the Sports Club Board. All student groups that receive funding from Student Union are given an account with Student Union. Within this account, there are 7 sub-accounts, which divide student group funds into the following categories: operating, subsidy, revenue, competition, appeals and speakers, fundraising, and gifts. The first and main account is the operating account. This account is used to hold money that is allocated by Student Union, university department contributions, or programming support from other group operating funds. Funding allocated by Student Union includes semesterly allocations and loans. The subsidy account applies to events where you are allocated a certain amount of money from SU for an event, but you're also charging attendees to cover some of the cost. For example, let's say it's a $15 per person dinner and SU allocates $10 per person for that dinner, and you're charging the remaining $5 to people who are attending. That would be considered a subsidy event. So when you apply for your budget, anything that we consider subsidy will automatically get placed in your subsidy account. Other examples of events that are traditionally subsidized would be retreats and formals. One thing to remember about this account is that since you are collecting money from the people who are going, you are required to deposit those funds directly back into your subsidy account. The revenue account is for events that your group is charging those who attend, and there's a potential for a profit to be made. The most common examples are ticket sales for a show or concert, comedy shows, or theater productions. Groups have also made profits charging registration for hosting competitions and conferences. These types of events are revenue-generating events and fall under the SU revenue policy. This policy applies to how money from this account gets spent and accessed. If you make a profit from a revenue-generating event, your group keeps the profit, and that money gets transferred into your group fundraising account. If you do not make a profit, your group will be able to keep 20% of the revenue that is collected. So if SU allocates $1,000 for an event and your group makes $1,000, there was no profit made. But since you generated $1,000 in revenue, $200 will get transferred into your fundraising account at the end of the semester. However, let's say SU allocates $1,000 for an event which brings in $1,500. For this event, your group made a $500 profit, which is more than 20% of total revenue, so your group keeps the entire profit, which is $500. The competition account holds funds allocated through the competition committee budget process intended to cover costs directly related to attending competitions. Examples of such competitions are Model UN Conference or dance competitions. The competition committee evaluates requests for competition expenses in the spring semester for the following academic year. The funds are then placed in the competition account, which are potentially subject to a funding percentage, and the entire account is able to be used throughout the relevant academic year. Prize money that is received from competitions will be deposited into your group's fundraising account. Individuals cannot keep money that is awarded as a prize for a competition that SU helped fund. Violations of this policy will lead to freezing of SU accounts and possible lack of future funding for competitions. The Appeals and Speakers account holds money for a specific event you've received approval for through an appeal. This can be granted either by Treasury if the appeal is more than $1,000 or through the VP of Finance if it's less than $1,000. So you'll appeal for an event, and if it gets approved, the money will be put into this account. It's important to remember that the money can only be used for the specific approved event. So let's say you get approved for 2 different events. You can't use the money left over from the first event to spend on the second. You can only spend the money allocated for each individual event on that event. At the end of the semester, if you didn't happen to use all of that money, Student Union recollects those funds. The next 2 accounts are fundraising and gift. These 2 accounts have the most relaxed restrictions. You can use these funds for most things restricted from other accounts. This is your group's money, and you can use it however your group sees fit. This account is typically used to fundraise money for the student group, since groups may not use SU-funded accounts to fundraise. For example, if you're selling ice cream or food that you would like to make a profit on for your group, the funds to purchase the items to be sold must come out of your fundraising or gift account. If you don't have money in those accounts and you need to fundraise, you can apply for a Student Union interest-free loan. Money left over in the fundraising or gift accounts doesn't get recollected by SU at the end of the semester. It stays with your group. One important thing about collecting funds is you must deposit any money from sales into your group account before spending that money. For example, let's say you collect $500 in cash for ticket sales for an event. You are not allowed to then use this cash to pay for things you need for the event. We require student groups to deposit that money into your account and then spend it from that account. One of the reasons we require you to follow this is that SU keeps track of all of your group's income and expenses. If all of your financial transactions are not shown on your SU account, there's no way to have financial transparency or accountability for income and spending. This especially applies to revenue and subsidy accounts. In order to accurately calculate costs for an event, profits earned, number of guests subsidized, or items sold, SU must see every transaction. Another important reason for this policy is that SU undergoes an internal audit every year. If our practices are not found to show SU and Washington University policies are being followed and provide a high level of accountability, it is possible for us to lose privileges or have restrictions placed on some of the things we are now able to do. For your safety and convenience, we have a safe in the SU office. If you come in during business hours, you can ask a business coordinator to use our safe to safely store your funds for the time being, and then come back to make your deposit into your SU account when it's convenient or when the fundraiser is over. As mentioned earlier, groups that are new or don't have money in their fundraising or gift account can apply for a student union loan. To apply for a loan, go to sufinance.wustl.edu. Log in with your Wustl key. Click on My Loans. Click on Create New Loan. Be prepared to provide 2 quotes if merchandise will be purchased. Also the amount needed, why you need the loan, how you plan to repay it, and when you will repay it. Both the treasurer and the president of your group must submit the loan request before it will be sent electronically to the SU VP of Finance for consideration. Student union loans are interest-free. At the end of every semester, SU collects all remaining money from operating, subsidy, revenue, and appeals and speakers. At the end of every spring semester, SU will collect all remaining money from the competition account. Sometimes a group will have an event that's late in the semester and they'll need an extension beyond the deadline to submit expense request forms. If it's needed, you will need to get prior approval from the VP of Finance so that this money doesn't get taken away from your account before you have a chance to spend it. A request for a carry forward is a similar situation. If you received funding for an event and due to some circumstance you weren't able to put on that event and therefore that money is still in your account, if you can provide a reasonable explanation why the event didn't occur in the planned time frame and how you intend to make it happen in the next semester, SU will consider allowing the funds to remain in your account. Like an extension to be granted a carry forward, you will need to get prior approval from the VP of Finance. A group can be deregistered for a number of reasons, the most common of which is prolonged inactivity. If your group is deregistered, all SU funding and existing balances will be retrieved by Student Union. This includes fundraising and gift account balances. Conflict of interest policy basically states that you need to conduct student group business ethically and objectively. If you conduct business with a family member or a friend where there may be a financial interest or either party may benefit from the relationship, it is a potential conflict of interest. Any and all such relationships must be disclosed, and all offers of perks or gifts of any kind from suppliers must be refused. A copy of this policy will be given to you in full when you come to verify your test scores with a business coordinator. SU allocated funds carry restrictions and cannot be used for many items. The next slide shows a list of restrictions. You are responsible for knowing all of them, and I'm going to highlight some of those which are violated the most. Please always refer to the list and how things work before you spend your SU allocated funds. The restriction on alcohol is strictly enforced. SU will not fund alcohol for your group's functions. You may use money from your fundraising account to purchase beer, wine, or malt beverages only, and in accordance with university policy. When programming an event with alcohol, you must first contact a staff member of student involvement and leadership before you plan your event. You must also complete alcohol training prior to holding any event with alcohol. The second most common violation is giveaways. Giveaways are any situation where you're handing out something for free to students or anyone attending an event. This could be something small like pens, or something bigger like a raffle prize or an appreciation gift. No SU allocations can be used to purchase items intended to be given away. Another common violation is individual member dues and t-shirts or group clothing. They should come out from your group's fundraising or gift accounts. In addition to this long list, there are other financial policies. Again, please refer to how things work. Under no circumstance is any SU group allowed to have an outside bank account. PayPal accounts are considered outside bank accounts and are not allowed. It is also prohibited to use a group member's personal bank account to hold group funding or fundraising. Evidence of an outside bank account will result in an immediate freeze on your SU account and a possible denial of future funding. Student groups are not allowed to contract with web hosting sites in order to accept credit card payment for the sale of tickets, merchandise, or dues and registration fees. PayPal accounts and credit card devices, including but not limited to the Square, are also strictly prohibited. SU now offers an option for accommodating credit card payments, which provides simpler, lower cost opportunity for credit card sales. It will be covered at the end of this presentation. SU will not be liable for overdrafts in your student group account. Repeat offenses may result in a suspension of your SU account. Expense requests for more money than is available in your account will not be processed. Don't spend money you don't have. SU reserves the right to deny any expense request if sufficient funding is not available in your group account. If a student group overdrafts in an amount exceeding $50, a 5% penalty will be applied to the next budget allocation. If you're collecting funds for any reason, those funds must be deposited within 24 hours into one of your student union group accounts. As discussed previously, Do not use collected funds to pay for program expenses or to reimburse your members for any out-of-pocket costs. Never pay for a contracted service out of pocket or with cash you have collected. Evidence of withholding group deposits or misuse of funds collected will result in an immediate freeze placed on your student group's SU account and possible denial of future funding. Any registration fees being charged or collected for an event must be deposited into the SU account being used to pay for the related event expenses. Deposits made to your group account for the sale of goods are subject to Missouri sales tax law. If sales tax is applicable, your group is responsible for the payment of those taxes, and your deposit will be reduced by the appropriate amount. Please refer to your financial report and track spending on the SU Finance website to view sales tax deductions and see a business coordinator with questions. The IRS looks at the treatment of gifts, prizes, and awards by the university to determine that these have been recorded properly for tax purposes. If your group purchases items to be given as gifts, awards, or prizes, SU will need the following information about the person who won or received the gift, prize, or award before processing a reimbursement for the item: recipient's name, Social Security number or student or employee ID, description and cost of each gift, award, or prize, and the recipient's home address. Reimbursements will not be processed without the gift recipient information form, which can be found online at studentunion.wustl.edu or from a business coordinator. Gift cards are considered taxable income by the IRS. The same reporting rules apply whenever a gift card is used. The purchase of gift cards from merchants who sell alcohol is prohibited. Students may not use meal points to purchase food or supplies for events and then be reimbursed for those. Student groups supported by campus partners or other university departments. All financial transactions required for programming must be processed through the SU office. Any and all payment for goods and services budgeted from your student union account must be processed through the systems we have in place. We will not reimburse advisors, departments, or campus partners for program expenses that should be processed through your group's accounts. A fundraiser is an event designed for the sole purpose of raising funds to be used for events not funded by student union or to benefit a charity organization. All fundraising events must use funds from the fundraising or gift account or an SU loan. Operating, appeals and speakers, revenue, competitions, or subsidy funds cannot be used for a fundraiser. Any money collected through fundraising will be deposited into the group's fundraising account. The copy machines in the student union are provided for copying and printing for group-related purposes only. Student union has the ability to monitor any copies produced on these machines. If any student is identified using an SU copy code for personal purposes, the group whose code was used will be fined $50 from their fundraising account and will lose copy privileges for the rest of the semester. If you purchase an item costing over $200 from SU funding, then you will need to fill out an insurance form. If it is a reimbursement, we will ask you to have the form completed before we can process the check. If the purchase is made with a purchase order, we will accept the form once the item has been received because we need the serial number. The cost for insurance is 50 cents per $100 per year. We charge this from your student group operating budget once a year. Insurance covers items that are stolen or damaged from floods, fires, etc. It does not cover regular wear and tear. In the next section, I will talk about how to submit expense request forms and student union resources that are available to all student groups. First of all, as a treasurer, you should be checking your group financial statement regularly. To access your group's financial statement, go to sufinance.wustl.edu. You'll sign in with your Wustl key and select Track Spending. This is the same place you'll go to fill out and submit an expense request form. To get your expense request form, you will simply select Fill out a request form from the menu. Follow the form and fill in the blanks. The student group expense request form is the form you'll use anytime you need to spend funds from any of your group's accounts. Once you save the form, it will route electronically to you, the treasurer, for approval. You will find the document in your My Pending Requests folder. Click on the request and hit Submit Request. Once the form is submitted, you can print it and turn it in the Student Union office for document processing. The form can be filled out by you or another group member. If another group member fills out the form, you'll need to log in and submit it for them before the form can be printed and turned in. If you fill out the form, you can do it all in one step. Step 1 is select your group name. Step 2 is select the event name. If the event name is not listed, select Create New. Once you have created the new event, go back to the event dropdown and you'll be able to select the new event. Step 3 is select the type of request. The check request is used anytime you need to reimburse someone for group expenses they paid for out of pocket or to make a payment to an individual or company for services with a contract or an invoice. Anytime you use a check request, you will be required to submit additional documentation along with your expense request form. For a reimbursement, you will need to submit a receipt that meets all of these 3 criteria. The receipt must be original, itemized, and show proof of payment. We also ask that you tape the receipt onto a separate 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and tape it on all 4 sides. Attach that sheet to your expense request form. A credit card receipt or statement is not a receipt. It can be used in addition to an itemized receipt to substantiate proof of payment, but it may not be used by itself for reimbursement. Another form of documentation is a contract. We will discuss contracts in more detail a bit later, but you need to remember to never sign a contract yourself. When submitting a contract, it must be completely filled out and signed by all parties when you bring it to us with an expense request form. From there, processing could take up to 2 additional weeks, so please learn the process and plan ahead. Payment to a foreign agency or a performer requires additional processing time, tax forms, and approvals. Expect delays and plan accordingly. For a check request, we will always mail the check directly to the address listed in the payee information. The special mailing instructions is only available if you have a visiting performer or speaker who needs to be presented with the check in person. There are 2 options for special mailing. You can choose to pick up the check at North Campus. In that case, we need to have the name of the student who will pick up the check, and only that person will be allowed to receive the check. They'll also be asked to show their ID. If you request a North Campus pickup, you'll need to pick up the check the first or second day it is available. If you don't go by the second day, the check will be voided and you'll have to resubmit the check request documentation and wait for another check. This process requires extra work for the accounting office, and they do not appreciate it if we request a hold for pickup and don't follow through. The second option is having the check sent to a group member campus mailbox or your student group's mailbox in the SU office in the DUC. A purchase order can take 3 to 5 business days to process. A purchase order is an agreement with an outside company to provide some product or service and accept a purchase order in lieu of payment. The company will send an invoice later referencing the purchase order number to receive payment. You should first contact the company for pricing and then fill out the expense request form. You'll be prompted to fill in individual quantities and prices, and don't forget to include applicable shipping charges. Once your request is turned in, come back in 2 to 3 days to pick up the hard copy of the purchase order from your group folder. And then it's your responsibility to present the purchase order to the company. There are many advantages to using a purchase order over a reimbursement. First, all items purchased with a WashU purchase order are sales tax exempt, saving your group money. With a purchase order, your group members don't have to use their own money and wait to be reimbursed. If you receive an invoice from a company you have presented with a purchase order, always bring it to a business coordinator. The company will not receive payment until their invoice has been processed against the purchase order. If you get a call from a company inquiring about a payment, always refer them to a business coordinator immediately. If you're not sure if a company accepts purchase orders, you can begin by checking the frequently used company list on studentunion.woostel.edu. There are some special processing requirements for purchase orders for car rentals and bus rentals. We'll talk about those later in more detail. For a purchase order, we don't need the company federal tax ID number unless the university has never made a PO to this company before. If you're not sure, you can check with the business coordinator. The purchase order change order is what you use anytime you need to make a change to an existing purchase order. For example, if you need to increase or decrease the purchase order amount, add or delete items, or cancel a PO altogether. You will need the original PO number to complete the form. You can find the PO number on your group financial statement on track spending. Another form of payment is the interdepartmental order. This is used to transfer funds to or from another student union group or university department, including event services, Aramark, Bon Appetit, residential life, meal services, and maintenance. If there is another SU group that needs to transfer funds to your group, the treasurer of that group has to submit the expense request form. All transfers will be placed into the account they came from. For example, if a group is transferring money from their operating account, it should go into your operating account. If they are transferring funds from fundraising, it can go to fundraising. Program contributions from departments will always be placed into the account being used to fund your event and fall under the same rules for use as student union allocations. The only exception to this is if your group is being paid for a service or a performance. All performance payments can be placed in your fundraising budget. There are 3 types of credit arrangements you can take advantage of. The first is the SU Visa. It is designed to accommodate student group purchases made on the internet or to pay companies that do not accept purchase orders and for things that do not require a university contract. Please don't plan to use the credit card because you didn't fill out paperwork for a purchase order or a contract in time for processing. Fill out the expense request form, have it submitted, and print it out. Come to the SU office during regular business hours and see a business coordinator to use the SU credit card. A second form of credit arrangement we have is the Schnucks card. For this, you will need to, again, fill out the expense request form and submit it. Then print it out and bring it during business hours to a business coordinator in the SU office to pick up a Schnucks card. You can use the card at any Schnucks store. Do your shopping and present the card for payment. When you return the card to a business coordinator the next day, you'll need to also turn in the itemized receipt. This is very important. We must receive the itemized receipt when you return the card. Another type of credit arrangement we have is the Sam's card. We call this Sam's Fax and Pull. First, you can go to the Sam's website, samsclub.com. You can't place the order there, but you can use the website to make a listing of what you would like to purchase. Print out the list and then fill out the expense request form, submit it, and print it. Bring your expense request form and your order to a business coordinator and we'll fax your order over to Sam's. The Sam's store will assemble your order and have it ready for you as early as the next business day. Before you go to pick up your order from Sam's, you need to stop by the Student Union office to get a copy of the receipt from your group folder. Take the receipt to the Sam's store and present it at the customer service desk to receive your order. If your order is faxed by 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, it can be available for pickup by 7 a.m. the next day. For weekend pickups, your order must be faxed by Thursday at 4:30 p.m. The next is a deposit voucher. This is used to deposit funds into your SU accounts. It can be cash, check, or coin. If the deposit is for a gift or donation for tax purposes, submit an expense request form and bring the deposit to a business coordinator for processing. For all other deposits, fill in all of the information and make sure to itemize the deposit amounts if you have multiple sources of income. If you have deposits from more than one event, a separate deposit voucher must be completed for each event. Money collected for events must be placed into the account being used to fund the event. Payments made for performances or other services done by your group may be deposited into fundraising. Complete the expense request form and print it. Deposit vouchers don't need to be submitted by your treasurer. Bring your printed expense request form to a business coordinator or student staff member and we'll walk you through the banking process. Things to remember about deposits. It may take 15 to 20 minutes to complete the banking process depending on how much you have. Please allow sufficient time to complete the banking process. We ask that you make deposits within 24 hours of collecting the money. If you absolutely cannot do that, we have a safe available, short-term, for you to store your money or checks until you have time to complete the deposit. See a business coordinator if you'd like to store your funds. Your deposit may be subject to Missouri sales tax. Be very specific about how you earned your fundraising money and break it down for us. We'll determine whether your income is subject to sales tax and record it on your group statement. The next section is travel. The travel section pertains to any type of request involving travel, and you'll be required to fill in the following: dates of travel, city and state of your destination. A reimbursement for gas is considered travel, as are registration fees to attend a conference, entry fees, tournament fees, hotel charges, and food while you're traveling. Remember, a credit card receipt for gas that does not show the number of gallons purchased is not an acceptable receipt. You must have the gas pump itemized receipt. Please note that the receipt date should match the travel information. You'll always need to fill in the number of participants for each request. If the number is 12 or fewer, you'll be required to fill in the names of all those in attendance. Step 4. Fill out the payee details. You'll need the name and address of whoever you are making the check request or purchase order to. If you're paying or reimbursing a fellow student, you'll need their student ID number. If you're requesting payment to an outside individual or company, you'll need their Social Security number or their federal tax ID number. The only exception is when you're requesting payment to a company your group or the university has done business with in the past. For those, we'll have the tax ID number on file. If you're not sure, check the frequently used company lists on the SU website or check with a business coordinator. If you're requesting payment or reimbursement to yourself, your expense request form will route to your group president for submission. You'll need to ask your group president to log into the SU Finance website and go to My Pending Requests. The box marked relationship pertains to doing business with an outside person or company that you or one of your group members may have a relationship with. We ask you to disclose this information. For example, if you buy t-shirts from your uncle's printing company or order food from a restaurant owned by a family friend, we'll ask you to detail that on your expense request form. Step 5. Fill in the account information. You can split the total amount of your request between more than one account. Just indicate how much out of or into each. Be careful when choosing which account to use because you will not be able to change it later. Only you, the group treasurer, are authorized to submit the expense request form. And again, remember, if you are reimbursing yourself, the request form will route to your president for approval. Keep in mind, check requests take up to 2 weeks to process. Purchase orders take 2 to 5 days. We do have a process for rushing documents through, but this is an exception. Please plan ahead. We can rush a document under certain circumstances, but are not always able to do it. And please don't ask us to because you haven't put in the effort to do the planning required for regular processing time. If we receive an unsubmitted or incorrect expense request form, we'll attempt to contact you one time by email or a phone call. Then we'll place your paperwork and any documentation into your group folder. Your electronic document will be rejected online and appear in your pending request folder. From there, it will be your responsibility to correct the document and resubmit it both online and the paperwork hard copy in the SU office. Every group has a mailbox located in the Danforth University Center on the second floor. We ask that you check those mailboxes at least twice a week. Every group also has a group folder located in the duck, room 275. We ask that you check that folder at least twice a week as well. The most important thing to remember about a contract is do not ever sign the contract yourself. If you do this, you could be held legally responsible. Let the university be the responsible party instead. All contracts must be reviewed and signed by a staff member of the Student Involvement and Leadership Department prior to being submitted in SU with your expense request form. Do not pay for services out of pocket. We will not be able to reimburse you. Any services that your group contracts to be performed must be paid directly to the provider with a contract. Oftentimes, we'll also need you to have a W-9 filled out to accompany your contract. For performers who are not residents of the United States, we will need other tax forms and legal documents. These must be turned in with the contract, and extra time must be allowed for processing. Contract payments have extra steps and approval processes to go through, including the tax department approval. Tax will be taken out of any contract payment if it is required by the law. Tax will be taken out of any contract payment if it is required by the law. If you're paying a foreign national, make sure they have a work visa for the United States. Some of the services that always require a contract are catering, coaching or consulting, musical performances, speakers, event venue rentals, musicians, DJs, and occasionally equipment rentals. Also, anytime you are paying a fellow student for a service, you will always need a contract. For Aramark services, anytime you reserve space with event services, you may receive an email from Aramark saying that you will have to pay for cleaning. You must then fill out an expense request form for an interdepartmental order to Aramark. Print it and give it to a business coordinator directly. We'll give you a billing code number on the spot. Then we'll ask you to contact Aramark with the billing number. When reserving a classroom in which you plan to have food, fill out an Aramark request form, then call Aramark and receive an estimate. Fill out the expense request form and give it to a business coordinator directly. Aramark services requested fewer than 4 business days in advance will be billed at an emergency rate and will cost your group extra money. If you fail to follow the process or request Aramark services when required, your event could be canceled. Anytime you need to rent a car, we must have a vehicle request form turned in with your expense request form. On this form, all drivers must sign and write their student ID number. This enables those drivers to be covered by the Washington University insurance policy. Students 18 years or older are allowed to drive, but all drivers must sign this form and turn it in with your expense request form. We do not allow the rental of 12 or 15 passenger vans. And rental of cars must have a WashU purchase order processed in advance. You'll need to take the purchase order to the rental office to pick up your car. For an out-of-state vehicle rental, meaning you are picking up and returning a vehicle at an out-of-state location, you will need to make the reservation and arrangement for payment with an SU business coordinator well in advance of your group's trip. Student Union has a corporate account with Enterprise to pay for rental charges when your group flies to another state and then rents a vehicle to be used while you are out of town. Bring your expense request form and vehicle request forms directly to a business coordinator who will assist in making the reservation using the corporate account. Purchase orders are only accepted at the Enterprise locations near campus. POs cannot be used for out-of-state reservations. For bus rentals, there is a university policy. Buses picking up or dropping off on campus must be registered with the transportation department. Only certain areas of campus are designated for bus service. Complete the bus registration form online at bus.wustl.edu. Submit the form and you'll receive an email confirmation. Now we're going to talk about some of the student union resources. The first is the BearBucks card readers. Student Union has BearBucks card readers that your group can make a reservation to use. The BearBucks card is your WashU ID card, which can be used to purchase tickets or merchandise being sold by student groups. The card reader allows your student group to collect payments and will automatically deposit revenues directly into your group's accounts. All sales are subject to Missouri sales tax law, and there is a university surcharge of 2%. Groups are asked to have specific, unique pricing, and only those amounts may be used when you're running sales. See How Things Work for the full BearBucks reader policy and instructions. Student Union also has credit card machines. The credit card machine allows your group to collect credit card payments when selling merchandise or tickets to events or collecting dues and registrations. All receipts must be signed and turned into a business coordinator when the machine is returned. Revenues will be deposited directly to your student group's accounts. There's a 2 to 3% credit card fee attached to all sales, and all sales are subject to Missouri's tax law. Applicable taxes and fees will automatically be deducted from your group's revenue. Only registered student groups can use BearBucks card readers or credit card machines. SU groups cannot sponsor non-SU groups, university departments, or outside vendors for the use of these machines. Both equipment must be reserved online at least 2 business days in advance and must be picked up directly from a student union professional staff member Monday through Friday by 4:30 p.m. Groups who misrepresent BearBucks or credit card sales in any way are subject to a $50 fine, possible loss of all revenue, and or suspension from all card reader privileges. Both of these equipment cannot be used for auctions of any kind, alcohol, donations, home-baked goods, sales of services offered by non-professional service providers, sales of animals, or sales by outside vendors. Please see How Things Work for a full list of restrictions. There are many other student group resources available in our offices. You'll be provided with a list of those resources when you come to see a business coordinator to verify your test scores. We've covered a lot of information today, and even so, you're required to read How Things Work online. Anything covered in the How Things Work manual is your responsibility to know. As the treasurer of your group, you're responsible for submitting all expense request forms and authorizing all expenditures from any of your group's accounts. No one else is authorized to do this. You are responsible for knowing the appropriate rules and regulations and conveying them to your group members. After taking the test following this video, you'll need to come to the SU office to see a business coordinator and verify your test scores. A score of 85% or higher is required to qualify as treasurer. When verifying, you'll also receive a treasurer's responsibility form and be asked to read and sign it. You'll also be given the conflict of interest policy, a $35 office supply request form, and our letter to campus partners for you to read and be aware of. Remember, the business coordinators are here to help you. Drop by anytime. We have an open door policy. Come and ask questions. Thank you for your time and attention.